First question on the right side, second row.
Coach, Game 7. And I want to ask you about a lot of people in social media and platforms are comparing the T.J. McConnell role with the J.J. Barrera role back in the 2011 championship run with the Mets. What do you think about that, and how important is T.J. McConnell for you guys?
Very important, and I do see similarities.
Steve, up in the front on the right side.
Hi, Rick. Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. A couple games ago, Mark was asked about, have you run out of adjustments yet? And he said no. I'm wondering now on the brink of a Game 7, have both teams seen pretty much everything the other team has, and it's all on the table now for execution, or do you think there's still things up your sleeve?
Well, there are more adjustments that can be made for sure. So we'll see.
Barry, straight ahead.
Yeah, Barry Trammell, Tulsa World. We talk a lot about the Game 7 pressure on the players. You feel any pressure as a coach to coach any different or make better decisions, or how do you approach, and what kind of an advantage is your experience over Daignault in a Game 7?
I love pressure. I mean, as you go on in your competitive life in sport, what you learn is that these moments are rare, and trying to duplicate this kind of situation is something that you look to do in everyday life, and it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to do that. I'm very much looking forward to Game 7. These are the last time we've had one of these in the finals, I think, was 16. I've seen some things about that, and these are special moments for certainly for both teams, but for our league, for the game, for the worldwide interest in the game, and so it's a time to celebrate.
Fourth row on the left over here.
Rick over here. Before the series, you talked about how you expected a very exciting series, and here we are, 3 games apiece, a differential of just 7 points. Has it gone the way you expected as far as that excitement level, and is it something that you saw that a lot of others perhaps didn't see in this series?
I mean, you never know how it's going to go. I'd be lying if I said this has gone exactly as I expected. Because each playoff series, each game is a different thing, and each game takes on a different personality, has different characteristics. Different guys step up, different situations happen, et cetera. So the truth is that nothing else previous to this matters at all now. I mean, we're just down to one game and one opportunity, and so we're really looking forward to it.
Standing on the right side.
Obviously, Coach, besides you, how similar is this group and this playoff run to the one you had with the Mavericks back in 2011? And how much do you use it as a motivation for your group nowadays?
Well, there are some similarities. Certainly the character level of the players on the team there are great similarities there. I mean, both of these groups, the 11 Mavericks and the 25 Pacers, just have great people. I see Oklahoma as having a similar type team. The Mavericks team was more veteran than we are. We have veterans, but we had more guys in their 30s who had been in a lot of playoff runs and stuff like that. There's a difference there, but yeah, I mean, but when it comes down to it, it's 48 minutes. It's 48 minutes, and once again, we're very grateful for our fans. We're very grateful for our organization. Our staff is very grateful for the guys we have on our team and the collaborative spirit that we've had all year. And now it's one game.
Aurelia, down here on the left.
Hi, Rick, over here. There's a lot of talking at the moment how Obi Toppin developed as a player, especially when it comes to the defense side. When he was with the Knicks, we saw him as a great dunker, but never really playing that great defense. But now he became such an important role, also not just dunking, also having this impact on the defense side. So what can you share about what approach did you have to actually bring so much more out of a player, not just scoring, also being on the defense side?
Well, when we acquired him 2 years ago in the trade with New York, the first thing we talked to him about was the fact that we were thrilled to have him. We saw a lot of special qualities in him as a young player that still had a lot of development to do. We talked to him about defense and rebounding, that those are two areas where he still has significant upside, and that we were gonna commit to helping him develop in those two areas. What we've learned about Obi is that he's a great teammate. He's a great worker. He wants to be a part of something that isn't just about him. And so he's worked extremely hard, and he's improved in both of those areas. And so, at certain points of the year, he's been one of our better defensive rebounders, and that had been one of his weaknesses. So, look, I'm proud of all of our guys, but him in particular, he's really come a long way.
Back right.
Yeah, Cliff Brunt, Associated Press. Chet Holmgren's been somewhat limited in this series from an offensive and scoring standpoint. What's worked, and how critical of a piece has that been in getting you guys to the point that you are?
He's a great young player, and he's had a lot of stretches where we have not dealt with him well. And so, like all their other guys, I mean, they've got a lot of great players on this team. We've got to do everything we can to make it as difficult as possible.
Joe, right here.
I know that this is a tough time for reflection with one more big one to go, but you go so far back in the state of Indiana and Indianapolis. This is your third stint here, obviously. What has this run up to now meant to you, just to be a part of it and the head of it, just given your long history in the state?
Yeah, I haven't been doing a lot of reminiscing about that. When you are part of a playoff run that gets going and you can keep it going, there's a part of you, and I'm speaking myself personally. You want to avoid thinking about warm fuzzy things. You've got to really concentrate on process. You got to keep trying to think of little tiny things that you can do as a coach to help enhance your players' abilities to play their best and things like that. But I will say that the 3 games of this series at Gainbridge Fieldhouse have been the loudest that I've ever heard that place. And my first stint in Indiana in the '90s with Larry, we were in Market Square for 2 years, and that was very loud too. And then we were in, it was Conseco at the time, in the inaugural year, and made an unexpected run to the finals that year, and that was extremely loud too. I remember particularly Game 3, after we had dropped the first 2 games to the Lakers. My second stint as a head coach, we got to the conference finals that first year, and the place was rocking, but I have never heard it as loud as I've heard it this year. So I know that means it's meant an awful lot to our fan base. The story of this franchise is interesting because the franchise was almost lost at one point. There was a telethon to bring it back to life, and they had to raise a certain amount of money and sell a certain number of tickets so that the bank would foreclose on the franchise. And so, Nancy and Slick Leonard had a lot to do with that. And then the Simons came in and purchased the team, and then from there it's been 40 41, maybe it's going on 42 years now. I don't know. So, but it's a long, storied journey, and I know all this right now means a lot to our fans, and so we've just got to focus on one game.
Last question in the middle.
Martin Ritmo. A few years ago, you installed an offense that relied heavily on passing, heavy passing. And that, whether it's causal or not, ended up with you not having a single or two single sources of scoring. Scoring was spread out as well. To what extent was that a decision made philosophically by you, given the material you had, the players you had? Or to what extent did you think it's going to be very hard for the best defense in basketball to cover all these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what time frame you're talking about or what year or whatever, but I just, our roster is built in a way where we need balance. When we traded for Tyrese, it was pretty clear that we needed to play with tempo, and so Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan have built a roster with guys that can run and defend around him. And so, but in today's game, roster construction seems to be changing, and a lot of the best rosters now are built on balance, and that's certainly what we're trying to do. I think that's what Oklahoma's doing too.
Thank you, Coach. Pascal will be up shortly. Take first question over here on the right side.
Hey, Tyrese, what's up? Last Game 7 in the finals, Cavs against Warriors, LeBron James against Stephen Curry. You always said that you are a LeBron James fan. What do you remember from that game? You remember watching it? How was that day for you?
The day I don't necessarily remember, but yeah, I remember where I was. I remember what the game was like, the energy of the game, being with my friends and watching it all together. And there's a mixture of Cavs fans, a mixture of Warriors fans, but I think that's probably one of the greatest games I've ever been able to watch as a basketball fan, and that's what makes Game 7 so fun. And I think that, especially for people around my age, that is the peak Game 7. So yeah, I'm excited to add to the storied history of Game 7s, and add to just the history of our game.
Over here on the left.
Tyrese, now that they've obviously been really good at home all throughout the playoffs. You guys have now played a couple games in this building. Just how would you describe it, sort of trying to win a game here, and sort of how do you overcome the kind of home court advantage they've been having so far?
Yeah, I think, like we've said over and over, I think the controllables are the most important thing here. Taking care of the ball, rebounding, playing with the right energy. I think something that's a underrated aspect of the game of basketball is momentum. And, when you're on your home floor, and you make a tough shot or have an alley-oop dunk or make a highlight play of some sort, it gets the crowd involved. That's momentum that goes your way, and I feel like we have that with our home court advantage as well in Indy. They have that here as well. So you got to be able to weather the storm with those momentum swinging plays, try to create, momentum stopping plays when you're on the road. That's important as well. But I think just controlling what we can is the most important thing.
Dustin?
Tyrese, just how did you come out of Game 7 physically, basically, and what have you had to do over the last 2-3 days since to kind of maintain the conditioning with the calf?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same standpoint I was before Game 6. I'm still a little stiff, a little sore rather. Good thing I only had to play like 23 minutes, so been able to get even more treatment and do more things. So just trying to take care of it the best I can, but I'll be ready to go for Game 7.
Next row back.
Tyrese, we've been here for the last 7 games asking you a bunch of questions. But during the games, we do the play-by-play for ESPN in Portuguese. And after you hit the game winner in Game 1, I said there's something special about those Pacers. I'm trying to figure out what is so special about those Pacers when you look back to the playoff run, the game winners, the epic game, the clutch times. What is so special about those Pacers?
Yeah, I think as a group, we've just been very resilient throughout the playoffs. We're a group of guys that get along really well and are trying to do something special, and I think the expectations for this group from an external viewpoint coming into the year weren't very high. They weren't very high coming into the playoffs. They weren't very high going into the second round of the playoffs. They weren't very high going to the third round. They aren't very high now. So I think we just have done a great job of just staying together. And there's not a group of guys I'd rather go to war with. I'm really excited to compete with these guys in a Game 7, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Next row back on the left.
Tyrese, Chris Hagan, Fox 59, Indianapolis. A lot of naysayers coming into this series about what to expect. From the outside looking in, how would you rate this series? Obviously, one more big chapter to write, but great games, thoroughly entertaining, and ultra competitive.
Yeah, I won't be able to give you a real rating till it's over. But I think that this has been a joy to compete against these guys and play in this environment. I'm having a lot of fun with what I'm doing and what we're doing as a group. So as a basketball player and being a part of it, it's been a lot of fun. And I would assume from a basketball fan's perspective, it's been a joy to watch. So, I think that's the good part about this series.
Alvaro in the middle.
Alvaro Martin of Ritmo. Last year, your defense was 7th worst in the league in terms of efficiency. This year, we went up to 19th. In the last month of the season, you were the 9th best. But then when you see your efficiency in the series, it's better than Oklahoma City's as a defense. And when you look at your games against the top 10 teams in the league in the regular season, the #1 defense was Indiana's. Oklahoma's was 3rd. How do you explain that for the bigger games, your defense all of a sudden turns up 15 notches?
Yeah, I think we just do a great job of sticking with our system, not trying to move it from game to game. I think Jim and Jenny, who run our defense, have done a great job of just establishing, kind of our blueprint into what we do. And we're competitive guys. We want to compete against the best. And I think the buy-in from our group has been, amazing. Obviously, Drew, Aaron, and Miles kind of set the tone for what we do defensively. Pascal has been on elite defensive teams before. I feel like I've really taken a big step on the defensive end myself personally. And we just had a lot of different guys who want to compete on that end. And I think, last year we could score the ball really well, but we couldn't stop a runny nose. We couldn't stop anybody, So I feel like we've done a good job of buying in on that end. And that's called for more success, but there's still a lot to go.
Joe here in the front.
Hey, Ty. 2 follow-ups from the question that was about just the crazy run. The comebacks that you've been involved with, how have they become part of your team identity? And then also, when you are a team that maybe outside of Indianapolis, like you have surprised the league again, but you guys never talk about lack of respect or anything like that. You just seem to sort of go about it. So I guess the identity question, and then also maybe why you guys aren't outwardly talking about, we deserve respect.
Yeah, I think from our group, as far as comebacks and stuff, I think we just have done a really good job of staying at games for 48 minutes, not giving up, understanding that no lead is really safe in the NBA, and just continuing to fight through the course of games. I think that's become part of our identity. As far as outward calls for respect, respect isn't something that we can just talk about and then receive. It's it's an earned thing. So I still think no matter what happens, it's still probably not going to be where necessarily it should be or what we think it should be. It doesn't really matter though. I think from our standpoint, when we compete and teams we compete against, they respect us, and I think that's the most important thing. As far as what the media has to say about our group, it is what it is. We are in a great point right now in our organization's history, and for our team specifically. You got to be really excited about the chance to compete one game to win a championship. So just looking forward to that, man. I think all the outside narratives and all those things, they come with winning and they come with success. So, we got the ultimate test coming up, and I'm really excited about it.
Last one standing on the right.
Terrence, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. For the past of 3 Game 7s in the finals, LeBron won twice, Kobe won once, right? So knowing those names, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, what's the winner of the Game 7? And do you feel like, let's say, if you guys win this time, do you feel like you can just be in that name list? It's just such an honor, or how do you feel about it being the name on that name list?
I just think as a group, I think the important part about winning a championship is, you at your name in history as a group. I think that's the most important thing. But as far as thinking about anything like that, I don't really think about what's to come after the game, success or not. Just fully focused on Game 7, and I'm trying to take it just a moment at a time, really enjoying what we're doing and understanding like this is, going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest game most of us ever play in our lives, and for our organization is from a historical standpoint as well. And that's something that you don't take for granted and you enjoy as a competitor. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Tyrese.
I appreciate it.
Hey, Pascal. Statistically, the bigger difference between your wins and your losses in this series has been on their end of the floor. I'm wondering and how efficiently the Thunder have scored. And I'm wondering, do you feel like the level at which you guys have defended has fluctuated from game to game? Do you think that's just random? What do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's a long series, and sometimes you're gonna get people with best shots, and sometimes shots are gonna go in, sometimes they're not. I mean, I think our process is the same, but it happened in basketball. You happen to lose games, so that's just what it is.
Michael here on the left.
Pascal, Michael Grange, Rogers Sportsnet, Toronto. Couple of questions. One, you had a front row seat for Kawhi Leonard winning a Finals MVP. Just that performance. Do you find yourself drawing on any of those lessons you maybe absorbed unconsciously or not? And two, your comfort level, just talking to your teammates, there's been moments in this series, in this playoffs, where you've really asserted yourself offensively, others where you've stepped back, let other guys do what they need to do, and just maybe those two things, just that experience watching Kawhi and then just your comfort going in and out.
I mean, I think it's Kawhi, obviously an incredible player. I think for me, if it's one thing that I learned from him and even that team is just being even killed. I think Kawhi, no matter what happened, he always was the same. That's something that I try to have it. For me, it's no matter good or bad, make shots, miss shots. It doesn't really matter. Just be yourself at all times, and that's something I learned from that. And I think for our team, it's just it's all about team. That's who we are. And anything that I can do to help my team win, that's what I'm gonna do. And there's no real thinking about myself and what I need to at that moment. It's just about what we can do as a team to win. And sometimes it's defending, sometimes it's getting a rebound, sometimes it's getting a steal, sometimes it's scoring. So whatever I need to do to help my team win, that's what I'm gonna do.
Straight ahead, Barry.
Barry Trammell, Tulsa World. You're playing for a coach that's won over 1,000 games, won a ton of playoff games, won an NBA championship. What has his experience done for you guys, especially in these finals?
Yeah, he's been definitely a calming presence. Again, his communication and like you said, he has the experience. He does a good job of preparing us for games. Not only just in terms of game plan, but mentally and he's definitely one of those coaches that, again, talking to him and he can just give you a good perspective on certain things and maybe make me look at things a little differently than I look at or whatever. But I think he's been so great with us in that, just preparing us for games and also putting us in the mindset ready to just go out there and be ourselves.
Dustin here on the left.
Hey, Pascal. I know you reacted to this on social media already, but what the picture of you from the huddle.
Dustin, you're gonna be the one asking that, bro?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
What was your thoughts of what happened and what did you
Yeah, well, I didn't see it until they showed me in the locker room. I haven't been on social media, so I don't really know. My teammates showed me. So we're praying and I try to close my eyes. I have this problem where I can't really close my eyes. Sometimes I'll be thinking that I'm closing my eyes, but they're not really closed. And even just having a conversation, sometimes I would look up and it's it feels like I'm thinking and my eyes just go up. But yeah, it's definitely just something natural. Usually I try to do this so I could make sure I close my eyes. But that time I didn't and it got caught on camera. But I mean, I'm glad people are enjoying it and having fun with it or whatever. But yeah, it's just literally I was praying and I was trying to close my eyes and I'm thinking in my head my eyes are closed, but clearly they weren't closed. So And yeah, that's just all it is, really. I gotta again. Like my agent told me one time I'm doing the national anthem that like he saw that, and I was like, oh man, like I gotta make sure I close my eyes, like because those are the moments where I usually pray. So it's like when I do that, I'm thinking I'm closing my eyes, but I'm not. So yeah, I gotta do better. I gotta start doing this. Like I'll put my head down. Like y'all can look at me no more. And the camera, the NBA with all these cameras too, like it's too much, man. Get the cameras away from us, man.
Couple of rows back towards the center.
Pascal, Milan from Weibo, China. It's a long series, and you play against a great team for 7 consecutive games. And you won the championship before, and then you are an all-star. And at this level, it seems like your maturity has come to another level. How would you describe your personal growth like throughout the series and the playoffs?
Like how to describe what? Sorry, just it. Sorry. Maturity. Okay. I mean, I think I just from experience, from being in these situations before, I think just trying to pour from all the experiences in my life and knowing that this is an amazing opportunity and like we are at the biggest stage. Not taking it for granted, and also just like knowing like how hard it is to get here. And I think for me, just the fact that I can appreciate that makes me just go out there, not get too down on myself when things are going wrong, and not getting too excited when things are going well. Just understanding that it's, you know, this is the game. It's basketball, but it's also life. And you know, sometimes you have good games, sometimes you have bad games. And I think just that whole understanding for me, like, just makes me relax and go out there and just do my job, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. We're playing basketball, and obviously all the other things make it like look bigger than what it is, but it's just ball.
Last question, Aurelia on left.
Hi, Pascal. How are you?
Right.
We love talking about, especially LeBron also loves to talk about, you know, he brought the first championship to the Cavs. And you, obviously, you were someone who brought the first championship to Toronto, and now maybe the second time to the Pacers. And we don't really give them as appreciation. We just heard the question before. Sometimes it's Kawhi, now it's also Haliburton. Of course, you're a team, but how much we should give you more flowers and talk about what you actually do to a team, that you are someone who's maybe now the two-time guy bringing a championship to teams who never had a championship before.
Oh, well, first, I appreciate that. Thank you. But I think for me, like, again, I really don't look at it that way. I just feel like I'm in a position where I am today, man. Like, from someone, like, from where I'm from, like, to get here, it's pretty crazy. Like, so for me, like, I feel like I've already achieved, like, everything, you know what I mean? Like, just because of, like, I'm here now, and, like, nobody could really see this path for me, and except, you know, God, and like, I'm here now, and to me, it's just, like, about going out there every single day, putting the work in, and just trusting God, and just giving everything that I have on the floor for my team, for myself, for my family, like my dad watching me, like, and just hoping that he's proud of me and everything that I've accomplished, and having, you know, his name, like, everywhere, you know, like, that, to me, like, that's what's more important, like, and all the other things, like, when I'm done, like, I look at it and then be like, oh man, like, I did this and it was great, but, like, for me right now, it's just, like, about the journey, and going out there, continuing to do my job, and doing everything that I can, and I would say that, like, I'm not supposed to be here, like, a kid, like, from where I'm from, not supposed to be here, so I'm just so blessed, and again, it might be cliche, but, like, I just don't really care about all that. I just care about going out there and do my job, and maybe one day, you know, I get the recognition, and it will be great then, but right now I'm still writing that story, so, like, I'm just focused on that.
Thank you, Pascal. Thanks, everybody. First question right here on the left.
Hey, Shay, why do you think home court advantages mattered so much to you guys during these playoffs?
The crowd is amazing. You're ultimately, like, in your complete comfort zone. Like, the flow of the day doesn't change. You're in your own bed. You have shoot around at your building. You eat your pregame meal from your chef or your whoever. So it's just like it's very comfortable. The whole flow to the day, and then the crowds behind you, they give you energy, whether you're up or down or whatever's going on in the night. So it's it's an advantage. It's fun for sure.
Joel on the right.
Joel Lorenzi with the Oklahoma. Shay, I know this thing is sort of arbitrary, but people's definition of, adversity or their barometer for it has been, having to lose over and over in the playoffs. I mean, Boston is probably a prime example of how often they went so close to the finals and lost. I wonder how you view your team's adversity and, comparatively, why you think the adversity you've been through is maybe enough to get over the hump.
Yeah, I try not to compare as much as I can. Everybody's going through something. Everybody goes through a hurdle in life or in a career or in a season, like whatever it looks like. And everybody reacts and responds and feels different to them. So I try my best not to compare. But I think this group has done a really good job of learning the lessons through its adversity. And I think it's why we've gotten here, because we've taken them and gotten better from them and gotten better on the other side of them. And if we want to achieve our dream, we'll have to continue to do the same thing.
Chris up front.
Shay, Chris Mannix, Sports Illustrated. There's a lot of statistics that explain the outcomes of the games in this series, but a lot of it has come down to the intangibles, playing with force, imposing your will. How do you make sure that your team wins those battles, that you come out with the right kind of energy, the right kind of effort in Game 7?
It has to be an emphasis, has to be at the top of our mind. It has to be all we care about. And above all, we just have to want to do it. We just have to have a sense of urgency in that part of the game.
Jenny?
Shay, Jenny Carlson with the Oklahoman. You clearly have a great perspective on history of basketball in the league and just things that you've said over time. There's not been many Game 7s in the NBA Finals. I'm wondering, as you approach that, what that means for you personally to find yourself in a Game 7 in the Finals.
It's a really good opportunity, really exciting opportunity, like a dream come true. Above all, I try to look at it as like a blessing and an opportunity, and then go out there and try to be the best version of myself. I think that's what we need to do. So we have to do across the board. Don't try to do anything spectacular. Don't try to do anything that you haven't done before, or be less than what you've been. Just be who you are and what got you here.
Second row on the right.
Shay, Myron Patton, OKC Sports Radio. Game 7, everybody knows for the NBA championship, that's what that moment's about. You grew up watching basketball. But you guys have also had this moment, this deal about the next game, 0-0. How do you not let the moment overwhelm you, but at the same time kind of having that neutral that you guys have talked about all season? How do you balance both of those?
Yeah, I think through our experiences throughout the whole season and in the postseason, no matter how big the moment or the game, it always comes down to the same things. When we go back and watch film or we go back and look at the numbers from the game, it always goes back to the things that we know we can control every night. And when we do those things, we look like a pretty good team. And when we don't do those things, we look like a bad team. And I think learning that and understanding that throughout the season and the postseason is going to help us tomorrow.
Over here on the left.
Guilherme Giovannoni from ESPN Brazil. Coach Mark Dagno said that the offense has been inconsistently, not moving the ball well. Do you think that's the thing that you guys can improve to win the Game 7?
Yeah, we have to. We have to improve on both ends of the floor if we want to win tomorrow. But yeah, we obviously have to get better offensively. Last game clearly was not good enough and not going to cut it, and we know that. And yeah, we watch film for those type of things. You have games like that. Now it sucks to have it at that stage, obviously, but yeah, we know we have to be better for sure.
Standing on the right.
Shay, Maynor Castillo desde la cancha. Everybody knows what you're going to do. Take a couple of dribbles, create space, and take the meeting. Why they can't stop you? The Indiana Pacers can't stop you to do that.
I work really hard. I use all my games and all my experiences to get better throughout the season. And I've developed, I guess, a skill set that works for me, and I try to go out there and do it every night.
Vince on the right.
Shay, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. There's been a lot of emotional momentum swings throughout the course of this series on both ends, with Game 7 being the highest of the high. How do you keep the team's emotions from not spilling over from maybe those swings not being so, vast?
We do a really good job of like plugging out of our emotions and viewing the game and the opportunity the right way. So I honestly don't feel like I have to do too much with this group. They do a really good job of putting the team first above their individual emotions or goals or whatever it may be, and getting done what needs to get done. And I think that's why we've gotten here. So I don't think I have to do anything special because of the stage. We just have to be who we've been all year and use the muscles that we've trained all year.
Tim on the right.
Tim Reynolds with the AP. Shay, in your 7 years, there's only like two guys that have played as many minutes with fewer techs than you've gotten. Drew and Harrison Barnes, I think, is the other. Have you always been that way? Like you just don't go over the line. Have you always been that way, or was that a lesson you had to learn to not go too far?
Yeah, I was hot-headed as a kid. And then as I've grown, I've just understood that getting too high or getting too low, especially in competition, doesn't really help me for sure. So I try to be as even-keeled as possible. And the way I see it, Texas points, and I don't ever want to give the team points because I can't control my emotions. So I just control them. It's that simple to me. Yep.
Dustin, last one here on the left.
Shea Dustin DePirac, Indianapolis Star. I know you've been asked about this matchup a few times in this series, but just what has it been like going up against somebody that you know as well as you do in Andrew Nembhard, and what have you sort of learned about him as a defender over the course of this that you didn't know already from all the times that you had played against him?
Yeah, it's been really fun. I haven't learned anything new. I've known how good of a player he was and defender he was playing with them for all these years. And tomorrow should be even more fun for sure.
Thank you, Shay. Yep. Jalen will be right up. We'll go Michael right in the front on one, third row.
Hey, Jalen, Michael Grange from Rogers Sportsnet in Toronto. You've matched up a little bit with Pascal Siakam off and on through this series. What makes him a tough cover? What have you kind of come to appreciate that maybe you didn't know from this kind of repeated exposure?
I wouldn't say I learned anything new, except when you don't guard somebody all season, you kind of figure things out. But he's physical, he's skilled. When you put those two things together, it's hard to deal with for sure. And I think the biggest thing for me was he was taller than I thought coming into the NBA, I guess. It's not really a shock now, but just like that, when you're tall, physical, and obviously when you've been through this finals process a couple times, just like the playoffs of your career, you get better, and a lot of moments don't really rattle you. So he's been a tough cover, but it's been really fun to go up against him every game and, kind of have that battle.
Barry?
Yeah, Barry Trammell, Tulsa World. Coming in, everybody often talked about lack of deep playoff experience by you guys, but the biggest mismatch in experience is on the coaching bench with Carlisle versus Mark. How do you feel like he's held up? What have you liked during this playoff run that you've seen from him? And how much pressure is on him to coach well in a Game 7?
I have very mixed thoughts about this question. I don't ever worry about Mark not being prepared for a moment. The way he attacks basketball from a coaching standpoint is the same way I approach basketball, which is why we have a lot of respect for each other. So I'm not too worried about the experience there. Obviously, Rick is another great, probably Hall of Fame coach. So I think Mark's also getting better coaching against him, like the same way we would as we get deeper into this run. And I feel like just from like a playoffs, like lack of deep finals experience, like we were probably about as deep into the finals as you can get, like a Game 7. So I'm never worried about Mark and what's going on with him. And at the end of the day, Mark is not going to have to make shots on Sunday. So it's more about how we can carry out his game plan and do that.
Jenny?
Hey, Jalen, Jenny Carlson with the Oklahoman. You guys played a Game 7 a month ago against Denver, and you told us afterwards you didn't sleep very much the night before. But I'm wondering, what did you learn from that Game 7 experience? So many of you don't have Game 7 experiences. I know this is a whole other level, but what did you learn from that, and what do you hope translates tomorrow?
Try and go to bed a little earlier. The other part, too, is just like you can't really the swings of a game, I feel like in a Game 7 feel so much louder than they do in any other game, except maybe apart from like an elimination game. I feel like tomorrow they'll feel a little different too, just because obviously it's the last game of the season. This is for the championship. So I think it's just what Game 7 taught me for Denver is just like the swings. Like 3 feels like you're down 10. You know what I mean? 1 feels like you're down 5. Like that's just like the swing of the game, and what's going on feels much larger. So it's just kind of about like honing in your emotion, like understanding the state of the game is big for Game 7.
Fourth row on the right, Vince.
Jalen, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. I think the last time the NBA had a Game 7 in the finals, you might have been 14 years old, 15 years old in 2016. Being in your third year, I'm sure there's so many more experiences you have yet to experience, but can you appreciate like that this is going down in history, that win or lose, you're a part of NBA lore? I think there's only been 5 Game 7s in the past 35 years.
Yeah, it sucks. I probably can't appreciate it until I get the outcome I want. So it's cool, though. Somewhere down the line, win or lose, it'll be cool to have your name etched in history regardless of what's going on. So I think that's cool. But right now, like it's very difficult to look into that. But I'm also grateful for the opportunity. That's one thing I can say is like throughout the whole entire thing, you always have to like remain grateful for where you are, because there's a lot of NBA players that'll trade their spot with me right now. So that's how I look at it. But as far as like being in history, like I want to be on the good side of that for sure.
Nick, on the right.
Dub, Mark talks a lot about trying to keep things straightforward and simple so that you're not, as a team, you guys aren't thinking out there, you're playing instinctually and with great force. Can you maybe take me inside a little bit about how you guys have gone about that over time, and obviously need to have that again tomorrow?
Yeah, over time we've had a good process about it. We've had some slippage. You're trying to get back to that, but tomorrow it's kind of like a do or die situation, so I don't doubt that we won't have that. But I think we've done a good job just building the muscle. We've talked about that all year. In those games that people don't think matter, when you're playing late December, on a Tuesday night, and you're not even on TV, like those games, the ones where you can really build a habit there. I think we've done a good job of that all year, and we'll have to do it one more time.
Second row on the right.
Hey, Jalen, draftados from Spain. As Vincent said, you were like 15 years old when the last Game 7 of the finals was played. I was just wondering, what do you remember from those games, if you do? And what you remember from those games gets you excited about playing tomorrow?
Who was in the finals then?
Cavs Warriors.
Bro, I don't even remember that, to be honest. Like, 15, I was probably like an AAU tournament or something playing. I remember, like, the biggest thing from the finals is, like, I remember a lot of the stuff surrounding it. Like, I don't remember the actual games. When you're 15, like, I feel like you miss a lot of, like, what's going on. Like, you're more worried about, like, your favorite player. Like, Kobe wasn't playing, so I didn't really care. But I just remember, like, the buzz and just, like, everybody kind of choosing a side, which is why I think it's really cool that I've had this experience like Oklahoma, where you're driving down the city and there's paintings of Thunder Up, and, like, I'm walking to, like, Target and there's people face painted, and the game's not even today, and, like, you can see the bars are full every game, and we're packing out the stadium while we're not here. Like, that's a lot of the stuff that I'll really remember. That's a lot of the stuff I remember, like, during that run, like during that finals time.
Left side, towards the center. Go ahead.
Michael Martin, Let's Talk Thunder. Dub, I'd imagine that sort of through the course of your career, when you had that growth spurt, you had to adjust your game to that. And then again in the NBA, once you sort of put all that muscle to your frame. Wanted to ask, is this the best you felt in terms of like the balance of your actual basketball game and your physique that you've had?
My physique for sure. Basketball-wise, yeah. I think I just feel myself getting better throughout like the finals and just like throughout the year, which is always like a good feeling. Even when I like struggled, like there's been like for me at least, there's been a lot of like positivity behind like how I've been struggling and like when that was. So I just think throughout the year I've just gotten way better. But physically, yeah, I feel really good. Just kind of lets me know like what I did last summer to get my body in shape for this and what I've been able to do to maintain it throughout the year has been a big one. So I've been good at that.
Tim, last question here on the left.
Deb, you mentioned the face painting fans and all that kind of stuff. You've compared it to like a high school football powerhouse type of feel. What's the feeling like when, the like Game 7 starting the last time you had one here, just with the crowd and the atmosphere, and what do you anticipate for tomorrow?
It makes like the hair on your arms stand up a little bit. Like it's so like you're like anxious going into it. It's honestly like it's a little like indescribable because it's like and it's hard to give like a good answer because this Game 7 is going to be completely different from the last one we played in. But from like a fan perspective, I can't imagine it won't be anything short of like incredibly loud. Obviously, they're going to be anxious too. Like we're very close to, finishing the job, but very close doesn't get you far unless you finish it. But I am excited just to see like how much the city shows out and like. I don't know. Paycom will obviously have a very different energy than it's probably ever had, so I'm excited for that.
Thanks, Jalen.
Cool.
Next, we will have Ty before Rick for the. Dustin, here on the left.
Mark, Dustin DePierre, Indianapolis Star. You talked at the beginning of the series about just the respect you have for Rick Carlisle. Just what's it been like to kind of sit on the other end of the chessboard against him for 7 games?
Humbling. He's a great coach. Their team plays with a ruthlessly consistent identity. They really compete. They're never out of a game. They've done an unbelievable job collectively of building the team to the point where they can get to this point and perform the way they have in this point. And it's been the case, in the end. I mean, there's not a lot of nights where you feel like you're at an advantage from a coaching standpoint. There's great coaches in the league, and he's certainly right at the top of the list.
On your right, Nick.
Mark, you often talk about simplicity in your message and tactics. How key for you is it tomorrow that your guys are playing instinctually and not thinking here in a Game 7?
Critical. I think that's the deal. Is you want to be prepared. Certainly want to learn the lessons, get the game plan into the game, but not at the expense of aggressiveness, confidence, instincts. I think that's been a strength of ours this season. We certainly need to lean on that. We got to understand the work's done, and we got to trust that work. The muscle's built. We got to flex that muscle. That's what tomorrow will come down to for us.
Straight ahead, Barry.
Barry Trammell, Tulsa World. Mark, we talk about Game 7 pressure on players. How much pressure is there on coaches in general, you in particular, to make the right scheme adjustments, to make the right rotations, those kinds of things?
I always feel a ton of pressure, but the pressure is not external. It's not like a game circumstance. It's not a situation. It's the internal pressure of doing right by the players, serving the team, putting the team in the best possible position to be successful, especially this team. It's a group of guys that I love coaching, and so I feel a great sense of responsibility to them, a great sense of responsibility to the organization, the city, in every circumstance, though. That's a fire that keeps on burning regardless of circumstance.
Chris, on your right up front.
Mark, Chris Maddox, Sports Illustrated. There are a lot of statistics that explain the outcomes of the games in this series, but to follow up on something Nick asked, the intangibles seem to have had an impact on everyone. The effort plays, playing with force, imposing your will. Is there any way that you can prepare your guys to win those types of battles, or you just have to hope that they come out with the requisite energy?
I mean, it's a contest of wills. I think the reason it's swung between the two teams is because these are two teams that have leaned on that heavily to get to this point. It's two teams where the whole is better than the sum of the parts. It's two teams that are highly competitive, two teams that play together. And so two teams that kind of rely on the same stuff for their success, that are squared off against each other. And so, you're not going to exist in the win column of that, on a possession or even obviously in a series for either team. And so I agree with you that those things have defined the games of the series. I think both teams understand that. Both teams are going to try to do that tomorrow, and the better team will win.
Jenny?
Hey, Mark. Jenny Carlson with the Oklahoman. I know you're acutely focused on what happens between the lines tomorrow, but Game 7s obviously have a lore in sports, and you long told us your sports history, you're a sports fan of many things. Kind of put us inside being involved in a Game 7 in a championship series, just your appreciation for that.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege for everybody that gets to participate. It's an unbelievable thing and an unbelievable experience. And both teams have earned the opportunity to experience that. And so we're going to enjoy it. We're going to throw our best punch, go out there and be who we are. But it's a privilege to play in a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I mean, no one's skipping that in this whole thing. But once the ball goes up in the air, the game is still going to come down to the same things, and we've got to be able to focus on that, despite the fact that we're grateful for the opportunity.
Tim on the right, third row.
Tim Reynolds, AP. Mark, for a team that obviously plays very physical on the defensive end, you guys aren't afraid to foul. You don't go over the line either. You've got almost no techs all year. Shea got one for waving a towel in support of a teammate making his first basket, and
it was rescinded.
And it was rescinded.
For the record.
Is it an organizational taproot, like we are just not going to get technical fouls, or is that just the way these guys are, that they're just not privy to going over that line?
Well, first of all, we're physical, but I think we've done a great job. There was a point in the season where our free throw differential was historically low, not only the lowest in the league, but lowest in the modern history of the NBA. And we really dug into that and tried to make sure that we were putting ourselves in more positions to get fouled with the force that we were playing with on offense, which I think has shown up in the playoffs. Dub specifically is a guy that's made huge jumps there. And then defensively, understanding legal and illegal physicality, we don't want to take illegal fouls. I want to be very clear on that. We want to play physically, but we want to play legal and not put our opponents on the line or in the bonus. As far as the technicals, we just try to. And it's not a thing we talk openly about. First of all, I respect the officials. I think our team respects the officials. We understand that that's an imperfect job. It's not going to be perfect. They're trying to get it right. And then we really try to just focus on what we can control, not because of anything other than that's the best pathway to play your best, and that's the best pathway to win. And so we have hopefully a culture of focusing on what we can control and blocking everything else out. And, Jenny mentioned Game 7s and the lore of that. The outcome of the game and the context of the game is outside of our control. In between the lines is inside our control. And the referees is in that category too. We can't control how they call the game and what they put a whistle on and what they don't. We can control a lot of other things in the game, and that's what we need to focus on.
We have time for Michael and John.
Michael Grange from Sportsnet in Toronto. There's not many guys on either side that have kind of played statistically to their season averages. I think obviously just the quality of the defense being played, but one guy is Pascal Siakam. Are you okay with that? And, is there any reason why he's been able to play to kind of his level, and do you need to get him off that if you're going to win Sunday?
I think it's all play. He's had some quiet games in the series, as all great players do in a playoff series, because you're playing against a great team. The deeper you go, the better the competition tends to be. And then you're playing against a great team over and over and over again, which is an experience you just are not getting in the regular season. And so there's no point in the regular season where you play a great team 7 straight times. And as a result of that, great players, great teams, they vacillate in and out of everything. To Chris's question with the intangibles, it's very hard to sustain the exact same level over and over and over again in a playoff series, which is why I think, some teams win games, they lose games, and some great players have really loud, great nights, and then they have quieter nights. So I think we've generally done a pretty good job in the series, and so is Indiana, and that's why it's 3-3. And now it just comes down to who plays better tomorrow.
John, last one, fourth row towards the middle.
Coach, why do you think that the much bigger difference between your wins and losses in this series has been on your offensive end of the floor, and not just shooting, but also turnovers, offensive rebounding, free throws?
Yeah, I think, I'm not pointing out anything that's not obvious. Our defense has been more consistent in these playoffs, especially than our offense has. I think generally offense is harder in the playoffs for everybody. The same is true for Indiana in this series. Their offense is not where it was in the regular season or even earlier in the playoffs. I think it's just harder to score when you play a team over and over and over again. We've got to continue to try to find solutions with what they're doing. We've done a good job of that. We were not great with that in Game 6, but we have another opportunity to do that tomorrow, and that's what we got to do if we want to win the game.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep,
Shea
thanks.
will be right up.